Hey there, and welcome to this episode of Alfatron Chats. I'm Noel from Alfatron Electronics, and today we will be discussing the Alfatron MUH88TP-N 8x8 Matrix switcher. Right, guys, so with me in studio today, we have Spencer Thomas. Spencer, thank you for joining us on the show today again. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Cool. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. Spencer, can you tell us what is the purpose of a matrix switcher?
So purpose of a matrix switcher is basically to route any audio visual source to display in an environment. So any input to output that you would need to switch if you have multiple TVs, multiple sources, and you would want to see different things on different TVs in different areas. Pretty much. That's it in a nutshell.
Ah, fantastic. It's easy to explain it like that, right? But once we get in the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Awesome. So where would we use matrix switches?
So matrix switches, pretty much most places where there's multiple sources and multiple displays again.
Okay.
So classrooms, restaurants, boardrooms, command centers, control centers, all those kind of things, depending on the size, obviously, or how many multiple displays and how many sources at the end of the day. So yeah, wherever audio and visual, or a lot of the times maybe just the visual side is switched to different displays, all on the same, all the same source, or maybe display one, input one, or whatever the case is. So it can switch in matrix as you need it to switch in matrix.
Ah, fantastic. Thanks, Spencer. So let's get into the details of the MUH88TP-N 8x8 matrix switcher. Spencer, can you please tell us a bit more about it?
Okay, so the matrix is 8 inputs, 8 outputs. So on the 8 inputs, you have an HDMI 8 inputs. So you can see on the back there. I'm sure you can see on the screen. So you have 8 HDMI inputs. So that's sources, Blu-rays, PCs, set-top boxes, decoders, encoders, whatever the case is that you want to put in. And then on the output side, we have mirrored output ports, also 8. So we have 8 HDMI ports, which you can run up to about a 15-meter HDMI cable, 4K.
Okay.
And then they have Hdbaset ports, which then uses the receiver. 4K, 131 feet, 40 meters, and 1080p 60, 230 feet, 70 meters.
Impressive.
Yeah. And then there's a whole lot of switching that happens inside the box.
Okay.
So not just video switching, there's audio switching, video switching. So let's say, for example, you have a Blu-ray player and you want to take that source and you want to extend it to another room or another area, or whatever the case is.
Yes.
You can extend audio and visual over the HDMI or the HDBaseT. With the HDBaseT side, you've got a receiver. You can de-embed the audio off the receiver as well if you really want to have a local amplifier.
Okay.
You've got HDMI out from the receiver, which allows you to put it into a display or a projector or a video wall, whatever it is that you really needed to do. It's also got RS-232 pass-through through the box as well. So that means if you have a control system and you need to switch off the displays or the projectors as well, you can filter that through into the box over a cable, through the Phoenix connectors, and then out through the HDBaseT, run it through the cable all the way to the other side, and then de-embed basically off the back of the receiver here, which then can go into the projector or the display or whatever it is that you want to control, and you can then have your third-party control product here, but control the displays on the other side.
Sure, that's pretty cool, hey? And these receivers here, they're included with this 8x8 matrix.
100%. So they come box, so 8x8 box with 8 receivers in the box, well, in the kit, and then 8 remote controls as well.
Check this out, guys.
So you've got a remote control for it, and then it comes with 8 little IR in and output emitters and receivers. So basically, if you don't want to go through the expense of an entire control system in, let's say, the home or the office or the boardroom or whatever the case, you just want basics, you can still use the box put this behind the screen or the display, the projector, whatever, and it has IR in and out as well. So that allows you to take this 8x8 remote
Yes.
and go 70 meters or 130 feet or whatever the case is to the next room and stand in front of the display and actually switch the matrix to the source that you wanted to over IR as well. So it's a sort of
Wow.
inexpensive way to do it because it's all built into the box.
Yeah,
You don't have to have a control system with a touchscreen, but you can.
you can.
You
Yeah.
know?
But as it is, you've got a bit of basic
Yeah,
control
you got basic control.
out of the box.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then you have a receiver as well, excuse me, which allows you to, per se, control the setup box or the DVD player or whatever the case is, which is in the rack where this guy's sitting,
Okay.
70 meters or 40 meters away. And then you can take that Blu-ray remote and point it at the receiver or the transmitter. It'll then send the information over the CAT cable through to the box, out of the box to the DVD and sort of push play, pause, or whatever the case is.
Very
yeah.
nice. Very, very, very nice, Spencer.
Excuse me. On top of that, we have ARC built into the receivers and the box as well.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
ARC, which is audio return channel. So you can see on the front here, there's a little optical in or Toslink in or SPDIF, and that allows you to take from most new monitors and older monitors have an audio output,
Yes.
and you can take that audio output, plug it into here, run it through the cable all the way back to the box, and then de-embed it off again through the stereo or the SPDIF on the back of the box into a multi-room amplifier or whatever it is that you want the audio to play through.
Sure, that's very versatile.
Yeah, so in other words, you got a smart TV in the bedroom or in the office or in the lounge or whatever the case is, and you want to play Netflix or YouTube or local input into the TV, Blu-ray, you can then take that audio back to the rack through to the, let's say, a surround sound amplifier if it's in a theater or in a house, or a stereo amplifier in a boardroom kind of application. And they can then extract that audio back into the amplifier. So whatever you're watching on YouTube or Netflix or whatever, it'll come back through the amplifier and go through the speakers.
Sure. Is there something this matrix doesn't do, right?
It's quite a bit.
It's quite a bit.
It's got CEC functions built into it as well.
Nice.
So that
Nice.
allows you to switch on and off the source as well as the display. It's a functionality inside the box that you can obviously set up, which we'll show you in the setup. And then, I mean, last but not least, there's buttons on the front that you can literally go and press, input one to output one, input one to all, whatever the case is. So, I mean, if you really want to go that basic. Yeah.
Yeah, we all like to press buttons, guys. So they put a few on the front there for us.
Yeah. And
Nice.
then you've also got EDID management that happens in the whole box as well. So a little bit of EDID management, which is great because obviously, multiple screens, you might have an older one, a newer one, whatever the case is. So the management happens through the box as well. It allows you to, push EDID to 4K this way or 1080p this way. It also allows you to scale any of the outputs from 4K down to 1080p. So if you have an older
nice.
monitor and they really just don't want to change that monitor, you can take any 4K source and you can scale it automatically down to 1080p on the output, and it'll push it through to the screen, no problem.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice. Let's have a look at
Yeah, so we can just kind of show you the interface very
Yeah.
quickly. So we've connected the box up, and we'll just show you the web interface or the GUI control. So we're just going to switch over there quickly so that you guys can actually see the interface. All right. So at the moment, you'll see the front, let's say, landing page of the matrix. So now there's two options. So there's a administrator login,
Okay.
and then there's also a user login. So if the guys really want to use this for their switching, they don't want to use a control system or whatever the case is, you can log in as user, and it'll just give you basically the switching and the audio page.
Oh, okay. So the
It doesn't
rest
give
is
you
done
all the
by the
other-
machine.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
like a basic.
Yeah.
Okay. Got
So
it.
so for argument's sake, if I gave you this interface for your boardroom or your house or whatever it is, I would have this whole interface on my side as an administrator. But when you logged in, you'd log in as user, and you'd only have two pages basically: the switching and the audio.
Audio. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So switching is quite straightforward. Like I said to you, there's 64 different options.
Sure.
So from input 1 to output 8 and from input 8 to output 8. So as you want, you can matrix it as you really would like to.
Fantastic.
You can also build up scenes as well. So you can have a couple of little presetted scenes here. So if we know that, once you plug in a PC, you want to hit scene 1, and then that will tell input 1 to go to all the outputs so that it's showing on all the screens or whatever the case is.
Right, and that's all programmed
Yeah.
within the software.
Yeah, you can just do it on there.
Beautiful.
Once you've done that, you can save it, and then you hit the scene 1 or scene 2 and recall, and it'll recall that back to you.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
If we jump into the audio side, this is really cool. So this is where I said to you that you can matrix the audio almost separately to the video. So although you want to bring this PC's video interface through to the projectors or the screens or whatever the case is in the conference area, but you need some kind of other audio that's coming from a DVD player or whatever the case, it doesn't really matter. You can actually switch that audio on top of the video, basically.
Okay, so let me get this right. Okay, so you can actually choose which audio
You want to
go over the video.
with the video, yeah.
With the video.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have to take like input 1 and just listen to the video and the audio there. I can take input 1 for video, and
Yeah.
I can take input 7's audio
Sure.
to
And-
go
and
with
embed
input
it on-
1's video.
and embed it on
That
there.
is incredible.
And on the output side as well. So yeah, you can do the audio in or the audio out on any of the outputs. Then you've got the SPDIF side, which is your functionality of audio in or audio outs, as
Okay.
well as the ARC coming back from the local TVs that we bring in that ARC or audio return channel back to the box, so that we can de-embed that into a multi-channel amp or whatever the case is and play that sound from that specific monitor or whatever it is that you're doing.
This is incredible.
Yeah. It's got some volume as well, so it's got sort of pre-outs on the units as well, so you can adjust the volumes on that as well, which is quite nice as well. On the configuration side, so this is what we were talking about, the downscaling. So on any of the outputs, you can downscale every single output as you want. So at the moment, they're all enabled. So that means if we plug anything into this switcher, so let's say I take my laptop, which can do 4K, and I plug it into the switcher and we plug this into a monitor, the monitor will show up 1080p.
Okay, so
Because
this is
it's already
forcing the
scaling.
downscaling
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
scaling it already.
Okay.
If we say disable over there and we say confirm, then that will allow it to take whatever the output of the PC through the box and then to the display.
Okay,
So if
so
the
4K
display is
in, 4K
4K,
out.
great.
Got it.
It'll help. Yeah.
They actually make it quite easy there, Spencer. I mean,
They
it's
do.
clean, it's intuitive.
On the HDCP side, so this is a little bit more intense. So a lot of guys really try to use this. Some don't like to use it, depending on where you are, what you are, and how you need to set up your environment. A lot of the products have HDCP content protection.
Yes.
So you can make it passive, so that it's almost like a pass through, or you can make it active. That means you need to make sure that the source plus the box and the display are all going to be happy with the HDCP protection content laws for that matter.
Okay, content protection laws and all that. Okay, got it.
And you can do that on any of the outputs as you want.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, you've got a little bit of edit management or copying. So essentially what will happen here now is if you have multiple different monitors, so maybe a projector and monitors, you might get into a situation where you might get a blank screen on one of them, but all the other ones work, or vice versa. So you can then go and copy the content from any of those HDMI ins or HDBaseTs, or outs, to any of the inputs, so that it actually forces it to say, well, cool, I'm happy with 1080p, 60, whatever the case is, or 4K 444, or in between that. Doesn't matter, depends on how it is, because maybe one of those projectors or maybe one of those displays have a different bit of an edit on them, especially Apple machines like my Apple. It's got a different resolution.
Yes.
It's not the standard resolutions that we know, 16:9 or whatever the case is. It's got different resolutions, so you can then almost force the unit to see that resolution that you wanted, and then everything will work clearly.
Oh, that's actually very clever, because I remember in the past there was a few issues with that with Apple products,
Oh,
right?
yes,
Okay,
definitely.
so that's how
Yeah.
it's overcome now.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And then the basics on EDID or embedded EDID. So you've got inputs, and you can tell the inputs to force it automatically. So it doesn't have to copy from the display or from the output or whatever. You can just force the unit to tell, let's say, the Blu-ray player or whatever, you're going to be 1080p 2-channel. Done. You know, you're not going to push out any more than that, and
Okay.
it'll take it.
Awesome.
So you can go right up to 4K HDR multi-channel, which is home theater kind of spec at the end of the day.
Okay.
And then you have a user defined. So what you can do there is you can actually copy a .bin file, as they call it. So if you have a specific edit that you really want to push onto it, you can put it in there. You can copy it in and then apply it to all the ins, all the inputs on the unit.
Well, that's
that
very
is that is let's call it dire straits. That's like end of the line, because 99% of all the stuff somewhere along the line, they're all going to be happy with 1080, they're all going to be happy with 4K 30, or they're all going to be happy with 4K 60. So you don't have to go to that next step. Sometimes it does happen, but sometimes, most of the time, it doesn't happen. So me personally, I've never done a user-defined edit before, ever.
Okay.
And
So
I've
that's
been
pretty.
doing it for quite a while.
Okay, so that sort of just ensures compatibility, right?
Pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
And then if we just run through this one quickly, so we've got HDMI inputs. So if you have a Blu-ray, let's say, for example, on HDMI input 1, you would tell it that it wants to be active for the CEC functions. And you got some functions here. You can switch on and off the unit via CEC from the box. That's also in the API, so you can also go and write the commands through to the control system or whatever the case is, and allow it that if somebody plugs in or switches on the Blu-ray, it'll tell it that it's on, and then you can push that to the output, which will then switch the TV on for that matter.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can do that on any of the inputs, and then any other outputs. Outputs is 99% of the time a basic on and off or volume up and down. Maybe sometimes source selection, but 90% or 99% of the time, it's a display, and you've got one HDMI cable plugged into it, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
And that will then automatically, so as soon as the source comes on that CEC, it'll push through and then switch the monitor on, because a CEC function is there already built in, and it'll switch the TV on.
Very handy.
Yeah, and then you can do it over HDMI as well. So HDBaseT or HDMI on that.
Nice.
It's got some RS-232 control, so you can use RS-232. You can change the baud rates if you really want to on any of the outputs as well. The access side, this is what we were talking about earlier. So the administration password is basic at the moment, so it's admin. The user password is user. And for whatever reason, some people like to touch the boxes. So we get a lot of feedback from the installers that go, you know, we set everything up, and now 2 weeks later, everything's gone haywire.
Yes.
Because the guys go there and they start pressing buttons or whatever.
Yeah,
You
'cause
can
we all like
physically
pressing
lock
buttons.
it. Yeah, yeah. So you can go physically lock the front panel on the box. So if anybody comes to it and they start pressing buttons, it's just going to say, sorry, can't help you.
Awesome.
Which is really nice.
very
A lot
handy
of
to
guys
have.
like that.
Yeah.
On the interface side, you can, you know, rename it to whatever you would like it to be, what it says on the LCD, and you can even rename the inputs and outputs if you really want to. So some guys are very specific, so they know Blu-ray is number 1, set-top box is number 2, Mac PC number 3, Windows PC number 4. So you can actually go and just edit those out.
So once you label those there in the web GUI,
It's
does
just
it
on
show
the
on
web
the?
GUI.
Is it just there? It doesn't
Yeah.
show on the front LCD display that input name.
Yeah, it'll show.
Will it
Because
show?
at the moment, if you go input 1 to output 1,
Yeah.
it'll show you in 1, out 1.
And will
on
it
here.
show like input 1 Blu-ray?
Yeah, so it's just a small little name that
Oh,
you
just
can
a
put
small
in.
name.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then lastly is just the network side of it. So this comes static out of the box on the 0 range with port 4001. So that's most of our products that we've had over the years. So 192.168 is 0.178
Okay.
with port 4001. That's for your control side. So that's what you'll put into your Crestron or Neats or whatever the case is.
Nice.
And then you can change that as you want. Highly recommended not to put it on DHCP, because eventually you're not going to see where the unit is, and then the control system is going to go, well, I'm looking at 40.178, but now it's got a new DHCP lease or whatever the case is from the network, and that's now 40.100. and then the client's going to call and go,
Yes, no, we
well,
don't want
nothing's
that.
happening, it's not switching, whatever the case is.
Yeah, I don't want that.
So yeah, that's the interface. Quite quick and
beautiful.
easy. Really, really nice, as they call intuitive. It's
Yes.
not very difficult to understand, especially from an installer point of view. Obviously,
Yes.
this is not for the end user
Yeah.
in the office or whatever the case is. So yeah, cool.
Fantastic. So I want to touch on two things. So you mentioned EDID earlier, and you mentioned HDCP. Can we go into that and just sort of discuss the nitty gritties of each one?
Okay, so EDID stands for Extended Display Identification Data.
Okay.
So again, basically, basics is it's an industry standard for AV sources, displays, devices, which automatically, communicate with each other.
Yes.
So the display will go, I'm happy with 1080p, 60, so many frames per second, time clocks, whatever the case is. And then the source comes back and he goes, okay, cool, I'm also happy with that. And then they shake hands basically, and the
then
picture
the
is done.
display
This is done in split seconds. It's not, it doesn't take a while, they're
Okay.
kind of figuring out. So normally your display has a big table, an EDID table, with different resolutions, again, time clocks and source resolutions or whatever the case is. And most sources will also have that in their side, and they will accept whatever the screen is giving them, basically.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
so just in a nutshell then, so EDID basically, as it says, it's to identify that
Yes.
display, right?
Yes.
So that information gets passed from the monitor to whatever you're plugging it into.
The source.
And
yeah.
it tells let's say the matrix that, okay, this is what I can do.
Mm.
Can you do the same? And then the matrix says, yes, I can. And then they shake hands and they're friends, and then the video signal passes through. Is that sort of the gist of it?
A little bit further than that is that basically any matrix or switcher or scaler is almost, if we can call it, invisible per se,
Okay.
because the source is looking at the display. So whatever's in the middle, it has to manage that. So that's why we call it EDID management on the box.
Oh, right.
So it's kind of the box is going to force it, or it's just going to bypass it.
Okay.
And then the display and the source will be happy with each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's very cool.
I mean, this allows AV sources to send the best compatible signal from the screen to your source, basically.
Oh, fantastic. So
Yeah.
it's quite a handy thing to have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can HDCP?
HDCP, so that's high bandwidth digital content protection. So again, very similar per se in what they do. So it's there's keys involved to a certain extent. So a Blu-ray will have a certain amount of keys for protection content. So here in South Africa, we have a what we call DSTV. So they have also copyright content. So there's copyright content that you can't all of a sudden take it, put it into a matrix, and then multiply it to different outputs or displays or whatever the case is. So somewhere along the line, the box and obviously the source and display has to have a certain amount of keys, if they can call it that,
Okay.
which allows you to then take the DVD or set-top box picture and display it through multiple different displays.
Okay.
So it allows it to open up to different, like I said earlier, keys and doors
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Oh,
So some products have multiple keys, some don't. Some have only one. Then you'd have matrices or splitters or switches from different companies as well as us that will manage that HDCP as well. So that's where we have that passive and active.
Yes.
So we have that so that if you go passive, it's basically just passing it through. It's kind of not seeing this box. It's just thinking that it's going from source to display. Meanwhile, it's going from source to multiple displays.
Right. Oh, that's very
Yeah.
clever. Okay, that's
Yeah.
very, very clever.
Yeah.
So I want to find out more about the HDBaseT technology that is included with this matrix switcher. Why would we need HDBaseT technology?
So HDBaseT allows you to extend the HDMI audio, RS-232, USB power over distance.
Okay.
So if you look at this box, it's got 8 HDMI in and 8 HDMI out. If you had to use this in a standard installation, you could only go 15 meters with a cable in,
Yes.
or 5 meters or 10 meters, and you can only go 15 meters out again, because that's how long an HDMI. There is 20 meters that are out there, which go fiber We've got a couple of fiber cables that go 20, 40, 60, you know. But where you go to HDBaseT, it converts that whole signal into a different format, pushes it over the CAT cable, brings it out on the other side, depending on the distance. I mean, this one specifically, the longest you can go is 70 meters on 1080p, 40 meters on 4K, but we have extenders that can do 150 meters. So that's just the technology and the chipsets that are built into the boxes.
Oh,
and that brings all those different sources. So HDBaseT, which is what they call 5-play. So you've got the power, you've got the control, you've got the video, the audio, and IR, I think it is. So that's the 5, or
Yes.
Ethernet.
Ethernet, yeah.
Yeah. So this specifically, this one here, this has the HDBaseT input. It has RS-232. It has the control. So there's the control side of it. It's got audio. It's got video. But there's no Ethernet on here. So this would essentially be a 3 or a 4-play.
Yes.
Because everybody's different and every extender is different. Some of them have Ethernet. So then that'll be the complete 5-play, or with USB as well. Whereas this one doesn't. So this will probably be like a three-way, or whatever the case is, or 3-play. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, HDBaseT, it's great because it allows you extending your video further than what you could do just on a standard HDMI cable.
Ah, fantastic. So this leads me to this question, Spencer. So because we're extending it, okay, over whatever distance, does the HDBaseT technology allow for signal loss over the distance that it's going?
There is a little bit of signal loss. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. There will be ever slightly signal loss depending on the CAT cable that you would use as well. So if you'd use an old CAT5 cable, your bandwidth, your speed, whatever the case is, it's a lot less than what you would do a CAT6 or a CAT6A or a CAT7. You got gigabit speeds on there now. So, and the whole technology behind HDBaseT and the way that they've compressed it or compacted it and then taken it over that CAT cable, there's almost no delay per se, because you got all of that information and it's going through that cable 70 meters, 100 meters in a couple of seconds, you know. So there is delay in it. Obviously there's delay in everything, but not a lot, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, Spencer. So what I wanted to find out quickly was, does HDBaseT, their type of compression, is it a lossless type of compression?
Yes, no, definitely. So they do different types of compression. There's lossless compression. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but they do certain conversions and then obviously bring it over that cable. So they're converting the video, they're converting the audio, the 232, the IR. There's all different pieces to it, and then they obviously bring that all down, send it down the cable, and then convert it on the other side back to hardwired cables, basically.
Nice. So HDBaseT is the way to go when doing sort of like
a lot of guys are doing HDBaseT. There's other systems out now, HDBaseT, there's AV over IP, all over an Ethernet cable. So, it just depends on who you want to do, or what are you doing and how you want to do it, at the end of the day.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So that brings us to the end of our show today. Thank you very much for joining us. Spencer, thanks for being on the show today. You've been very informative, and a pleasure to have you again on the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so guys, please don't forget to hit the like button. Also, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on any content. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you today, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. If you would like more information on the Alfatron brand and the products, please head over to www.alfatronelectronics.co.za.com, my apologies, alfatronelectronics.com, where you can view the entire range of Alfatron products and take it from there, guys. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.